Hey! So, in today's video we are talking once again, and this topic today is about ABBA's exceptional single B-sides. So, ABBA released single A and B sides, many of them from their albums itself, but every now and then you've got a non-album single A and or B-side, songs that didn't make it onto the albums for different reasons. But in this video today, I would like to go through just a handful of single B-sides that were very special recordings. And the reason, or I got the idea for this video, was actually a mistake that I made in my last video. So last time's topic was ABBA Live 77, the possibility of a 77 live album release. And unfortunately I did two mistakes in that video. The first one was I said that next year is the 50th anniversary of 1977, and people told me next year is 2026. So I checked my calendars, I talked to my friends and my family, and they all assured me that yes, we are in 2025 right now. Next year is 2026. So it's about 2 years' time, of course, until the 50th anniversary of 1977. It seems to me that I just cannot wait for that anniversary, although, as I said last time, I don't get my hopes up for an official Live 77 release, but you never know. So the 50th anniversary is, of course, in 2 years' time. I came from the future, so I thought it was 1 year ahead. And the second mistake I did was I was going through all official live recordings for 77 that we got. After I did that video, I put all my vinyls and CDs next to each other, the live collection, and I thought to myself, oh, I forgot something, and people let me know in the comments below that this is missing from my video, and it's not even, it is actually probably the most important one. and that's the single B-side, of course, from the name of the game. It's the single B-side, I Wonder, Departure, recorded live in Sydney in 1977. This was the very first live release that ABBA ever released, and it was a full-length version of I Wonder Departure in 1977, and probably the only really proper live release from that tour on record. As I said, we also got the Flexi Disc Live 77 later in the same year with 5 songs as excerpts. And in 1986 we got the ABBA Live album, which had 2 recordings from 77, Fernando and Money Money Money, although heavily remixed. We will come back to the I Wonder Departure live single B-side because that's our topic, and that is one of those 4 songs that I would like to talk about briefly in this video, and also want to know your opinion about ABBA's single B-sides and those special recordings. If we take a look at the B-sides and some A-sides of ABBA's singles that did not make it onto their studio albums, usually those songs on the B-sides are songs that were recorded as part of the album sessions, but they just didn't make it onto the album. But in 4 cases we got something very special in the case of ABBA. And the first one was released in 1977, in early 1977, and that was the B-side for the single Knowing Me, Knowing You. It's the song, the recording, Happy Hawaii. And it even says on the single sleeve, early version of Why Did It Have to Be Me? The album track from Arrival, where this song also comes from. This is the first time ever, and the only time in ABBA's active years, that they released an early version of a song on record. And that's Happy Hawaii. That's quite special. In 1994, ABBA released the box set Thank You for the Music, and they included some outtakes and rarities, but only 2 full-length early versions were included there. And that's the early version of Thank You for the Music, but it has the same lyrics as the final version. and the song Dream World, which is not an early version per se. It is an early version of Does Your Mother Know, but it's the first music. It's a different song, but has some compositional elements of Does Your Mother Know. So Happy Hawaii is very unique, and I think it's quite fascinating to think about that ABBA released this in 1977 on record, officially. So apparently they were quite happy with Happy Hawaii as a recording, and put it on this B-side. And we shouldn't forget they also created a cartoon music video for this song, Happy Hawaii, even though that project didn't go any further, but was eventually released several decades later on DVD. Also in 1976, there was a radio special about Arrival, on which several outtakes were broadcast, including early versions of My Love, My Life, which is called Monsieur, Monsieur, and early version of Why Did It Have to Be Me, which was called Memory Lane, which basically is also an early version of Happy Hawaii. So they were quite experimental around that time, about releasing or showing stuff, evolutionary stuff, development of songs in the studio. But it is quite remarkable that they did decide to put one of them, Happy Hawaii, out as a single. And in the very same year, we got I Want a Departure as a live recording on a B-side, which I already said is the first live release by ABBA on record. And unfortunately, they did tweak the recording in terms of the instrumental bridge, which originally was a saxophone solo, but they went into the studio and overdubbed a Benny piano solo, which I think I've always felt is very unfortunate, because that saxophone bridge on the live version of I Wonder Departure, we can hear it on those really precious bootleg recordings of those concerts. It has such a remarkable atmosphere, and it is unfortunate that they overdubbed it with a piano to make it closer to the studio version. But that's how it is. But this is very historic as the first live recording, and was a single B-side. And in 1978, ABBA went back into their archive already for the B-side of that single, Summer Night City. And this is really special, a recording from 1975. And they put it here as a B-side, and it's the medley Pick a Bale of Cotton, On Top of Old Smokey, Midnight Special. And this is the first and only time ever that ABBA recorded cover versions. So I'm really curious about your perspective. So if you got this single, that was probably, the song was already released in 75 on a charity LP in Germany, I think. But this is, of course, where it was made more widely available to fans. So I really wonder what you thought of it, because ABBA, as I said, is really known for writing their own original material, 100%. And this is the only time ever on record that they did record traditional songs, basically, or cover versions. So what did you think of this medley back in 1978 when you had this single? That is something I'm really curious about. And if you want to know my opinion, I've got to say, I think that this medley of cover versions is tremendous. I feel that it shows how capable ABBA were of adapting even other people's songs and make it into their own. And even in this case, weave it into a medley that flows incredibly well. So the medley, Pick a Bale of Cotton, On Top of Old Smokey, Midnight Special, in my opinion, has a tremendous quality. It is purely ABBA. even though they didn't write the songs. But it has the sound and the energy is terrific. That's my opinion, but I'm really curious about yours, especially if you listen to this back in 1978 as that very curious single B-side, probably, as it was. And the final one is a second live version that ABBA released, and that was in 1979 for the single B-side of I Have a Dream, and the B-side was Take a Chance on Me, recorded live at Wembley Arena. That was another live treat from ABBA. Around the same time they broadcast the live at Wembley 1 hour radio special. The song was also included there, but they put it out on a single, at least for us, and we just had to wait 35 more years until we got the full live album Wembley, which then had a different recording of that song, Take a Chance on Me, and different recordings altogether that we didn't get to hear before, as it was the final Wembley concert they released. There is one more track from the early years, from the recording dates back to 1974. It was then picked up in 75. It was picked up several times during recording sessions for ABBA, for the ABBA album, and then for the Arrival album. And eventually that song ended up as a single B-side, and it's a song called Crazy World. I'm mentioning this one because it's also one of the very rare cases where ABBA took a few years to finish that recording. They weren't working every day on the song, but they picked it up every now and then, put it back, took it out again, and then it ended up on the single B-side in 1976. And this song is kind of a lost gem, in my opinion, a lost treasure, insofar that it just ended up as a single B-side. It's probably the right place for the song, but that song has such a sublime atmosphere, and I cannot wait to talk about that song and all the other songs that ABBA recorded for their third album, ABBA. This year, of course, we are celebrating the 50th anniversary of ABBA. We already celebrated it in April this year, but there will be a dedicated video for this album at some point later this year, where we are diving into this album for the 50th anniversary of ABBA. So let me know your thoughts about ABBA's B-sides, their single B-sides, especially those really rare tracks, those live recordings, the medley of cover versions, and the early version, Happier Why, or even like basically outtake like Crazy World. But you can also mention your favorite single B-sides that didn't make it onto a studio album. I'm sure we get to hear names like Love Light, Elaine, Should I Laugh or Cry, Cassandra. Those are fan favorites. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll see you next time for the next topic. I'm not going to, it will be a surprise. The next topic will be a surprise. I'm not going to spoil it, but we are going through a very, very special collection of ABBA releases from the past. I can't wait for that. Thank you very much for watching, listening, and for commenting. I'm always looking forward to that. Alright, until then, hey do!